think so.
Okay.
Are we live?
We are live.
Oh gosh.
They can hear all of this.
Oh no.
So.
So I'm gonna try to do the girl voices, right?
You're gonna do the girl voices. I'm gonna do everything else. I'm also gonna ask you to keep an eye on chat. I can see it here too. I think we'll be okay with that. Yeah, well, I have chat up here too, so it's fine. We has 2 viewers.
Oh shit, Nikes. I can't. I have to sign in.
You don't need to. Okay, it's fine. I can do things here. Just
I can do it from here.
It's fine. No, it doesn't need. Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
Just making sure it works.
Okay.
I guess. I don't know what I'm doing.
Good evening, and welcome to. I hope this the volume is loud enough. If you guys have a problem hearing me, please let me know so I can see if I can't make adjustments on my end. Because this is the first time we've done anything like this.
Ever.
So, yeah. But.
And there will be interruptions. We have 3 kids, and they're home and having Chick-fil-A, and there's one right now who's crawling in, trying to be sneaky.
Chase, dude, we can see you. You might as well stand up.
Oh, sorry.
What do you need?
I was just gonna get a straw.
Okay,
There
go
should
get a
be
straw.
a straw in your bag.
There's no straws in the bag? I'll go grab 3 straws then.
No, the other 2 have them.
Go. Get a straw. You know where they are. See?
All right. What page are we on? Are we starting on chapter 1?
We're starting on chapter 1. So right on
Okay.
right.
Crap.
No. Do we have anybody? We have 2?
We have 2. We have 2. It's fine.
We have 2.
We have the important 2, and that's all that
Hold on.
matters.
Okay.
Apologies. Testicle difficulties. Actually, speaking of that, April is Testicular Cancer Awareness Month, so if you have any male friends, children between the ages of 11 and 38, actually even older than that, have them checked monthly. Testicular cancer can pop up without notice, and it can be pretty scary. So, as someone who's gone through it, I encourage everyone to check. That said, let's get this road on the show.
Oh boy. I am not ready for this.
Sorry, I had to make sure that I was reading the title correctly. The 13th Zodiac, Book 1, Chapter 1, Brighton, Year 1019, Part 1, 69. I don't know, what symbol was that?
Cancer.
Cancer. Right. Speaking of...
And there's our other child, Jared.
Shall we wait, or...
Alright, what is he?
He's getting...
He's getting a towel.
Uh-oh.
Which means they spilled something.
Come on, guys. If you spilled something, let us know.
Well, clean it up.
Okay.
This will happen eventually. Maybe.
Part 1. Brighton, Port of Aria, day 26 of the 6th month. Cancer.
See, there it is.
I got that
Okay.
eventually. I just hadn't gotten down to it. See, you didn't have the Cancer thing up here, so I don't know what these symbols are.
You should.
Leo looks like sad sperm to me.
It does look like sad sperm.
They're coming back out.
They are.
I found it. The soda.
Okay, did you clean it up?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for cleaning it up. Good job, my man. Hi.
Bye, Jared.
Bye. Bye.
Continued.
We've made it.
Goodbye.
8 words.
Okay, Jared. Jace Rayon sighed, opening the missive one more time. The broken seal of Chaul, a lion's head backed by both a sword and a gun, stared back at him. His father's seal. He closely reviewed the description of the woman with dark skin and black hair that matched the princess's guardian. The princess would be about 18, almost 3 years younger than he was. The princess had been presumed dead for 10 years. His father had him tracking ghosts. Jace crumpled the missive and dropped it to the dirt. With the heel of his hiking boot, he dug it into the ground. His light brown hair fell into place over his forehead as he ran his fingers through it. A streak of black mixed into his bangs. He collected his thoughts, while merchants rolled past him on carts full of goods led by horses. A peregrine falcon flew over the tops of scattered trees. Aw, that was for me, wasn't it?
It was completely for you.
Landing on a tall post. Beneath the bird's nest, a flag adorned with the crest of Arya fluttered in the wind. Rows upon rows of green apple trees appeared in the distance, giving way to dirt and overgrowth. The wide cobblestone road exited the orchards leading to Brighton, a small town resting on the edge of the ocean. Salt hung heavy in the air. Jace meandered down the streets of the market. He adjusted the sleeves of his brown leather jacket. Touching his right bicep, he brushed off a stray apple blossom. The leather covered his tattoo of a sword crossed with a gun beneath the crown as a child comes down the hallway.
Mommy, I lost it in my scroll. I can't find it.
Okay, this is her other child, Alyssa.
I'm sorry for all the interruptions. I don't play.
Yes, you are. Sometimes. Other times you can be an absolute sweetie.
Sorry that for all the interruptions.
Chase, did you clean up the mess?
Yes.
Okay. Eventually we will read this book.
I'm in the wiggly blue.
Alright.
Okay, I have no idea where I was. Beneath the crown with the kids coming down the hallway. I got
yes.
it. I'll start that sentence over. The leather covered his tattoo of a sword crossed with a gun beneath the crown, the brand of the Ashen Guard. He didn't need the attention it warranted. An elderly man wearing a tattered suit jacket motioned from the shadows. Jace glanced in his direction. The ragged man nodded feverishly at Jace, motioning him closer as a child comes down the hallway once again.
Oh, no, I think...
no,
nope,
they
they're
actually
closing the
shut
door.
the door.
There's-
Never
there's-
mind.
okay.
Sorry, I was wrong. A wide, toothless... Nope, I was right.
Oh, what are they doing now? Let me write.
Life with kids.
I'm already done.
Congratulations. You have a trash can in there.
Okay.
A wide, toothless grin spread across his face. The man opened his suit jacket. A few revolvers were sewn inside the lining. Jace waved a dismissive hand. Tucking his hands into his pockets, he shifted away from the shady merchant from Chaul. I just picture the merchant from the beginning of Aladdin.
I'm kind of.
Come on, sail. Drop on by. I can see you're only interested in the exceptionally rare. An elderly man wearing a tattered suit jacket. Wait a minute, sorry, I read that paragraph already.
The merchant motioned to a different...
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, you know.
The merchant motioned to a different person walking through the gates. Sunglasses, polyester clothing, easy to clean, and now in stock a few select goods from the factories of Chaul. Jace shook his head. Time's influence had changed his home, and not for the better. Technology was advancing at an unusual rate under his father's rule and Time's guidance. A prospective male buyer with long blonde hair pulled back in a bun pushed past Jace and bounded up to the old man. Coins tinked in exchange. The buyer nodded at the shady old man and tucked away his purchase. Jace didn't see what the buyer had chosen, but he hoped it wasn't a gun. A second shopkeeper shouted... Sorry, did you hear that?
No.
Okay.
Or at least I'm pretending I didn't.
Okay. A second shopkeeper shouted at about the gorgeous new crop of red apples imported from Undal. Jace's attention shifted from the black market Chaul merchant to the shopkeeper in green and purple silks. He approached the fruit cart to browse, selecting an apple. He turned it over, making sure there were no bruises or imperfections. The red of it seemed out of place. Most apples in the kingdom of Arya were green or a golden yellow. Jace tossed a few coins onto the stand and nodded at the vendor. He shined the apple on his shirt and glanced around the area again. This time he spotted her, the woman from the missive. The description matched perfectly. A tall, dark bronze-skinned woman with black hair tied in a tight braid, easy enough to spot in a sea of milky white skin, and at least a few years older than he was. She spoke to the buyer from earlier. He couldn't make out what they said. The man appeared annoyed with her. She brushed him off and walked away. The buyer huffed and leaned against a building with his arms over his chest. Concern crossed Jace's face as the blond man looked directly at him, then smiled. Dismissing it as strange, Jace took a bite of the fruit and walked toward his target. Before he could reach her, the apple flew from his hand. A woman carrying a woven basket slammed into him. The contents of the basket littered the cobblestone, his apple resting amongst them. The woman let out a frustrated growl and knelt to gather the ginger and garlic bulbs. A careless passerby stepped directly onto the garlic, breaking the paper-like outer covering and squashing a few with their boots. "Hey, do you—" Jace knelt beside her to help her gather the groceries.
No, I got this. I'm sorry. I should have been looking where I was going.
The woman shook her head as hazelnut brown hair fell around her shoulders. The right shoulder of her simple blue dress fell out of place.
It's the first crop of garlic this year, and...
She turned to look at him. Their eyes met. Jace nearly lost his footing when he gazed into her ocean blue eyes. No, it can't be. Can it? He shook his head. No, she died 10 years ago when... This is merely a coincidence. He reached into his pocket, forgetting he had ditched the missive at the entrance of Brighton. Clearing his throat, he averted his gaze. He had been staring. Jace stood and held out his hand, helping her to her feet. Her cheeks were red. He wasn't sure if she was embarrassed or just shy. The woman forced a smile and placed his dirty apple back into his hands.
I'll buy you a new one.
She tucked her hair back behind her ear with an apple blossom-shaped pick. The basket returned to the crook of her arm. It's okay. You don't have to buy me a new apple. I was here looking for someone and I saw her. Jace glanced around. The bronze-skinned woman had vanished into the crowd, but the blond man remained. Cursing under his breath, he turned back to the brunette. She reached out to greet him properly.
I'm Leah Faraway, but everyone calls me Lee.
I'm Jace. Jace Ray. You know, my last name doesn't matter. Jace, trying to be cordial, took her hand in greeting. One awkward handshake later, Leah shifted the basket to both of her arms.
Nice to meet you, Jace. I would love to stay and chat, but I'm late to catch up with someone.
Leah moved away from him backward and bumped into someone else. She laughed nervously, apologizing to the person. As Leah turned away from him, fixing the sleeve of her dress, he saw it. There, on the square of her right shoulder blade, something peeked out from where the sleeve of her dress had fallen. The symbol of eternity. Shit! Jace gripped his sword's hilt to draw the blade. He pushed it back into its sheath as he lost sight of her. Leah, like the other woman, vanished into the bustling port town. Patrons and merchants went about their day oblivious to what happened. Leah, the one he was sent for, had run into him. 10 years passed since the day he last saw her. 10 years, and she fell into his arms, got up, brushed herself off, and walked away. Infinity symbol.
Infinity symbol.
Leah returned to the wagon tied up on the outskirts. Apple blossoms littered it, and the occasional apple rested on the goods left inside. A green apple leaned against a wood axe. You know, why does Jace buy an apple when he could just walk into the field and, have one hit him on the head?
Because he does, because I wanted him to.
Okay, that works. Just asking, Author interview.
Well, he's got money, so he's just trying to help poor people.
There you go. Perfect. Perfect. Altruistic and hot. I love it. A green apple leaned against a wood axe. Jimmy was nowhere in sight. It wasn't like her to be late. Her mind focused on the man she had seen in town. He seemed familiar. Hoisting the woven basket into the wagon, Leah grinned and went to wave when Jimmy came around the corner. Her smile vanished, and her hand returned to her side. Jimmy's frown caused her to worry. She carried a bag of groceries in one hand and a parchment clutched in the other. Her dark skin contrasted with the white apple blossoms. A few stray petals rested in her raven black hair. Jimmy grabbed Leah by the arm.
Jimmy, what are you doing?
Leah protested, trying to wrestle her arm free. She stopped when Jimmy's piercing brown eyes bore into her as the children came down the hallway once again.
Yes, ma'am. Bye, ma'am. Where you go? Oh. Run by something.
It was a run by Fruit King.
I got a yay.
I have no idea what that was. Hold on. Let me go close their door.
I'd switch it to we'll be right back, but
Okay, we're back.
And we're back. When we last left off, Jace was being altruistic and hot, and Leah was wondering what the hell was on Jimmy's face, because she looked mad. Jimmy wordlessly dragged Leah. I hope that's the right spot.
Yeah, you're in the right spot.
Jimmy Sorry. This is going to be a game.
It is going to be a game.
Shut the door behind you, please. Thank you. Jimmy wordlessly dragged Leah around to the front of the wagon and tossed their groceries behind her. Turning to Leah, she snapped.
Why were you alone? Where's Darrell? He went on ahead.
Leah said cautiously, freeing her arm from Jimmy's grasp.
After he walked back to the wagon with me. Good.
Jimmy grunted and motioned for Leah to get in.
Let's head home.
Leah quietly climbed into the wagon. Something had set Jimmy off, and it was unlike her to be so gruff. Sorry, I added a word. Jimmy growled at the parchment as she opened it and passed it to Leah. She hopped into the front of the wagon and snapped the reins. The horse started forward.
The king's son found us,
was all Jimmy said after Brighton disappeared in the distance. The ocean sky broke apart into rows of apple trees and a dirt road.
The king's son? You don't mean... Where did you get this?
Leah held the tattered piece of paper in her hands.
That man discarded it, and I found it. Take a look. You might not like what you see.
Jimmy didn't look back from the reins when she spoke. Leah uncrumpled the dirty parchment. A broken wax seal of chawl flaked at the top of the letter. Written inside was a detailed description of Jimmy and herself. She held her breath when she saw the words, Eternity, on the right shoulder blade. She dropped the parchment and touched her shoulder, trying to feel for it. The unending loop was there, and now someone else knew. Searching her thoughts, she could only think of the invasion of Arya 10 years ago. She knew the King of Chal sat on Arya's throne, but she wasn't anyone important. Just some nobody from Brighton, a girl living with her two adoptive twin brothers, their mom and Jimmy. What would the King of Chal want with her and that mark on her shoulder?
Jamie?
Jimmy's scowl stopped Leah from asking any more. For the rest of the mile-long ride, the two of them rode in silence until they reached home. Leah held her hand to her shoulder blade, lightly touching the symbol of eternity with her fingertips. Her mind wandered, trying to find a reasonable explanation of what was so important about it. It was a weird birthmark, nothing special. But now, after running into Jace in the markets and how Jimmy was acting, was there something they weren't telling her? The cart rolled to a stop. Leah looked up from where she was staring at the wood of the cart and took in the view of her home. The house had an orchard surrounding it. It was set back in the depths of a maze of trees and brush. The cottage had additions attached to the original form. They had adjusted it to fit more than 3 after Leah and Jimmy arrived. Jimmy, along with Leah's 2 adoptive twin brothers, had built the extensions before Leah turned 9. The mismatched wood had flowers placed lovingly around the windows.
Okay, Drew, it's time to move.
Jimmy's commanding voice startled Leah out of her thoughts. Jimmy hopped off the cart, still scowling, and marched over to an axe resting against the side of the house as the children come down the hallway again. Hi, Alyssa.
Bye, Alyssa.
Yay!
Go. We are
Please-
doing a thing,
please don't.
honey.
That's not nice.
Go.
You need to be respectful.
Go. Go. Alyssa, you have to go.
Honey, please.
I'm talking about this.
Yeah, but
please.
we're not.
Go. If we're gonna have problems, I'm gonna put you in my bedroom. Go.
Well, why? Nobody's gonna play.
I will play that with you later. I promise.
We'll play it later, alright?
Here, pinky promise.
I want to do this.
Okay, we'll go ask Chase. Chase!
that's not
Use your pinky.
Thank
That one. There we go.
Play this with her.
Please.
My
Please.
favorite card.
Thank you.
All three of them.
No.
Sorry.
Go.
Go.
Oh my god.
Okay, this game has two players.
Jen says hi, children.
Bedroom.
She also would like to say bye, children.
Go.
Bye.
Go. Go.
Bye,
Go.
Jen.
Bye.
Do you know where we were at? Because I have no idea. Cottage door.
Yeah.
Retrieving and clipping her two-handed axe to her back.
Yes. That.
Wait a minute. It was marched over
It
to
was
an
a
axe resting
two-hand-
against
yeah,
the
there you
side
go.
of the house. It was two-handed. It was two-handed with a single blade nearly as tall as Leah. The handle was wrapped in dark brown leather. Retrieving and clipping her two-handed axe onto her back, Jamie marched toward the cottage door.
What's going on? Oh.
That's me.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's okay. I thought it was Jamie.
What's going on? Why all the shouting? God damn it, Greg! What's going on? Why all the shouting? Tokay greeted them first. The oldest of the Faraway twins pushed his sandy blonde hair back as stray pieces fell out of place. His deep blue eyes sparkled in the sunlight. Leah grabbed onto Tokay's shirt to steady herself as he lifted her out of the wagon with ease. Ugh, what now? Giro kept his distance as the woman left the wagon loaded with supplies. As the smaller of the Faraway twins, he kept his hair much longer than his older brother. Metal-framed sunglasses hid his brown eyes. Jamie stopped, stared at Giro, then pointed at the sunglasses resting on his nose.
Where did you get those?
I bought them. Giro frowned as he marched past Jamie. Jamie twisted her face in disgust as she shook her head at Giro. Leah went to speak, but Jamie continued to cut across her.
Anyway, a mercenary from Chawl arrived in Brighton. We need to get to June's boat and head to Chawl. Or head to Undal. Ha! I'm the one who wrote it, right? Before he catches up with us.
Jamie turned to Tokay and tossed him a bag to pack. A mercenary? We can take him easily. Tokay slung the pack over his shoulder. He flexed, unnecessarily, and winked at Leah. She giggled in response.
Not just any mercenary, the king's own son.
Jamie turned to him, her eyes narrowed. Tokay let the bag drop down his shoulder. The king of Chawl sent his son? Jamie nodded at Tokay. She glanced over at Giro, who had a sour look on his face.
Giro, do you think you can convince June to take us to Undal since she's your girlfriend?
Probably. Giro groaned loudly and pushed past them, bumping into Leah. He looked at her from over the sunglasses. His brown eyes stared into her. He shook his head and scoffed. Leah followed him with her eyes, clutching her dress in her hands. He always had such animosity toward her, even when she was little. Giro climbed into the wagon and picked up the dirty parchment from the floor. He opened it, then quickly closed it. Leah watched him tuck it into his pocket. He shot a quick glance at her. The color drained from his face when he saw her looking at him. A shiver rolled down her spine as she looked past him, hoping his eyes weren't locked on hers. Something made her want to puke. She narrowed her eyes and thought.
What was that about?
Averting her gaze, she turned toward Tokay. Tokay rolled his eyes at his brother, then furrowed his brow at Giro's expression, wanting to smack the shit out of him. Tokay pulled the pack onto his shoulder and sighed. I'll get started packing.
Good. We'll need bedrolls and supplies for... Jamie, will you stop? Are you talking about the man in Brighton with the black streaks in his hair? Jace?
Leah dropped her shoulders in frustration. Jamie stopped pacing between the wagon and the cottage.
How do you know his name? I ran into him in the markets. He told me. He doesn't seem like a threat to me.
Leah crossed her arms over her chest.
No, this isn't good. Did you tell him anything?
Jamie paused, trying to compose herself.
I told him my name. You know, something you do when you meet someone new. I don't see why you're so worked up.
Leah pressed her fingers to her temple as the children come down the hallway again.
Go away!
We can see you back there.
I can smell you.
I can smell you! You can smell us? A little bit of up there.
Okay. You shouldn't have told him. That man, Jace, is the Crown Prince of Chawl. His father was responsible for the fall of Arya.
Jamie pressed her hand on Leah's shoulder.
I know, Jamie.
Leah pushed her hand off her shoulder.
What are you not telling me?
Leah pressed. Tokay shifted nervously. He went to put his hand on Leah's shoulder. She brushed him away and glared at Jimmy. Tokay sighed and spoke calmly. Jimmy, from what you said, I don't know if we have time to...
No, Tokay, we don't. But Lee needs to hear this.
Jimmy shook her head. Leah waited, staring at her friend's downcast eyes. That was just a bathroom break. We're okay.
Okay. Your father and my father made me promise to protect you no matter what. They sent me here with you. You were 8 and I was 16. Leah. Don't call me Leah. Only Mom calls me that.
Leah didn't like how she was talking, using her full name instead of the nickname she had given her when they were children.
Eternity symbol.
Eternity symbol.
We are adults.
Sometimes.
Mostly. You might want to sit down, Lee. This isn't going to be easy to hear.
Jimmy held her hand out to Leah. She already knew Leah wouldn't sit down. She had been keeping her safe for most of her life. Jimmy did not like how it made her feel when Jace arrived in Brighton. All her efforts to keep their secret under wraps unraveled a lot faster than she wanted. She had grown complacent and risked their safety so Leah could go shopping. They needed to get moving.
Perhaps this story would be best told at sea. Why don't we... Tell me now.
Leah interrupted her. Jimmy sighed and pressed her fingers to her temples. Time was running out. She didn't want to have to explain herself, but she knew Leah wouldn't let it go.
All right. It was 10 years ago, the night of the invasion, when the King of Chal came and killed everyone, including your parents.
Do you want me to read this part?
Yeah.
Okay. Night fell by the time a 16-year-old Jimmy dragged an 8-year-old Leah halfway across the island of Aria. Jimmy grunted at the weight of the small girl she carried in her arms. Leah had fallen asleep a few hours ago. The rush of adrenaline left her much faster than it did Jimmy. They were suddenly homeless and orphans. It was just the two of them. Jimmy consulted the crudely drawn map before knocking on the cottage door. A boy of about 13 opened the door. Behind him, a second boy looked over his shoulders. An older woman pushed past the two boys. Her dirty blonde hair was pulled back in a loose bun. She was covered head to toe in flour. The woman wiped her hands clean on her apron. Jimmy held Leah over her shoulder.
It came from the castle. I have these.
Jimmy pulled out the small package and 2 letters as 2 children come down the hallway. Oh,
No.
not this time.
Yay.
Woo!
Okay.
2 letters. Wait a minute.
One addressed to Leah.
Oh, sorry. I knew it was there. One addressed to Leah and the other to a woman named Vivian Fairway.
Are you Vivian Fairway? I am.
The woman waved at Jimmy to come inside. Jimmy remained at the door.
Prove it. Jimmy, yes, I know your name, and you have to trust me right now. Your father, Jack, sent this ahead of you.
Vivian removed a feather from her pocket and held it out for Jimmy. Jimmy took the feather and ran her finger over the soft bristles. She knew it belonged to her father's falcon. Glancing at Vivian, she narrowed her eyes.
Fine, I believe you.
Well, that was easy.
I know, right?
I found this feather on the ground outside. Not that there aren't other peregrine falcons nearby.
No, just that one.
Just
its
that
name is
one.
Lathina.
It is named Lathina. Told you, all the falcons were mine. The taller twin offered to take the sleeping princess from Jimmy hesitantly, yet thankful for the help. She gave the small girl over to him, carefully rolling her into his waiting arms. Vivian motioned for the taller twin to lay Leah on a nearby couch.
My father told me to bring Princess here and said you would keep her safe.
Jimmy crossed her arms as she watched the taller twin cover the sleeping princess with a blanket. The twin with the brown eyes sat in a nearby chair with his arms crossed like an asshole. Line.
Oh God, what is...
Perfect timing.
Oh God! Oh God!
Minute.
Oh God! Oh no!
If anybody else is frightened, please let us know.
Sure what we should do about this. Okay.
Okay. that happened.
We'll find out what happened later, after these messages from our sponsors.
Our children.
Yeah. Somebody has to pay for us. Go ahead.
All right.
So,
Okay.
like an asshole.
I'm crying. Okay. I am an old family friend of your father, the prophet. You are safe here.
Vivian gave Jimmy a reassuring smile. She went into the kitchen and returned with a small vial of silvery liquid. Settling next to Leah, she caressed the sleeping girl's cheek. Vivian put a small dropper into the vial and pulled a tiny amount of liquid into it.
What are you doing?
Jimmy took out a small dagger from her hip pocket. She stepped forward, gripping the dagger.
Tell me. Keeper of Souls came to me a few years ago with the prophet. She gave me the small vial of her blood.
Vivian held a finger to keep Jimmy at a distance. I know you've got a dagger, but just stay there for just a second. It's okay.
Damn!
She placed the dropper on Leah's lips. The little girl instinctively licked them, causing her to swallow the silvery liquid. Vivian wiped the excess from Leah's chin. Then she pulled out a second blanket. She motioned the boys to spread it out on the opposite couch from where Leah slept.
Keeper blood can change memories. It can also suppress her latent Titan powers, hiding them from even time herself. Keeper blood can hide her from time, but changing her memories would mean she would forget everything.
Jimmy returned the dagger as the threatening moment ended. Her gaze settled on the sleeping princess on the couch.
Not everything, just what she needs to forget. Leah will wake up tomorrow and she won't remember anything that happened before. She'll be a normal little girl.
Vivian said with a smile.
And since that night, we have kept it from you. You are the presumed dead princess of Aria.
Jimmy stood with her arms crossed. She had kept her gaze locked on the pommel of her axe until the end of the tale. Leah's eyes had gotten larger while she recited what happened. It was a lot to throw at her all at once, but it was finally time to bring it all to the surface. Jimmy hoped Leah wouldn't resent her for what she had done.
No, you're lying. You have to be. There's no way I'm a princess. Okay, tell her I'm wrong. She's wrong.
I can't do that, Leah. I'm sorry. You're wrong, Jimmy. Don't hurt me! Stab. The tiny dagger from earlier. Leah stepped away from Jimmy, shaking her head. Lee. Tokay went to put his hand on Leah's shoulder, but she backed away from him.
Lee, wait!
Jimmy tried to grab her arm.
I would remember something like that. There's no way any of this is true.
Leah shouted. Jimmy went to speak as a tear rolled down Leah's cheek.
You said Mom used keeper blood. No, keepers have been long since dead. There's no way. I'm sorry,
Leah flung the door to the cabin open and stormed inside, letting it slam shut behind her. Should I go after her? Tokay made a move to open the door.
No, I dumped a ton on her. Give her a minute to process it all.
Jimmy wrapped her hand over the pommel of her axe and brought it to her shoulder. She wanted to follow Leah and apologize, but she had more important things to do. They need to get out of Brighton as soon as possible.
Part 2.
Part 2. Outskirts of Brighton. Day 26 of the 6th month. Cancer. Leah's hands shook as she gripped the door handle. She hoped neither Jimmy nor her brothers would try to follow. Wiping her tears away from her eyes, she held back a sob. To calm herself, she turned to cleaning while shoving her emotions as deep as she could. Now was not the time for tears. Taking a deep breath, she picked up the stray drinks off the table and tucked one into her elbow and carried the other two. She walked into the cluttered kitchen of her family home. Herbs and spices hung in a window. The smell of smoked meats and cheeses rose from the nearby smoke cabinet. Heat emitted from the recently used oven. After setting the glasses down near the sink, Leah pressed her hands on the counter and blinked back the tears that threatened to break free. She shook her head and wiped her eyes with her sleeve. Her past was a mystery. Her fingers graced the hairpick. She adjusted it back behind her hair. It was the only thing she had of her past, but she didn't know who gave it to her. Her mother told her she had suffered a trauma when she was placed in her care, which caused amnesia. Her real parents were killed when she was only 8 years old during the invasion. She was found in the aftermath. Vivian Faraway took her in when they discovered she remembered nothing. Now it seemed like it was all a clever lie, crafted to keep her safe. Leah glanced at the counter as she dried her eyes. Steam rolled out from under a towel covering freshly baked bread. She went to lift it.
It's not cool enough yet.
A voice came from behind Leah, startling her. It was a random child.
Who just ran off?
Vivian Faraway moved some clean dishes into the cabinet overhead. She wore an apron around her full-figured waist. Ow! Hey, Mom. And a handkerchief pulled her graying hair back into a tight ponytail. She was only a few inches taller than Leah, but her boys towered over her.
I'm sorry, Mom.
Leah put the cloth back over the bread and leaned against the counter.
What's wrong, dear?
Vivian always noticed when something bothered or upset her children, all 4 of them. Leah knew she couldn't hide her feelings from her, but she damn sure tried. Vivian wiped her hands clean on her apron and leaned against the counter.
I'm fine. It's nothing.
Leah pressed her hands against the counter, trying to stop them from shaking.
It's never nothing, Leah.
Vivian gave her a knowing look and sighed loudly.
Tell me what's wrong.
Her mother stepped aside from the cabinet, retrieved 2 small glasses, and set them on the counter.
Jamie said I was a princess, that she carried me across the island, but...
Leah stared at the glass as Vivian filled it with tea and handed her one.
She has to be wrong, right? There's much truth to what she has told you, Leah.
Vivian took a long sip from the glass, exhaled, and continued.
You were small and exhausted. Jamie was tough and determined to make sure you were safe. It was a lot to put on the shoulders of a 16-year-old.
Leah took another sip.
It's just hard to believe. I understand. I'm sure you have many questions.
A look of concern crossed Vivian's face as she set down her glass and opened the utensil drawer. Pulling out a serrated knife, she took the cloth off the bread and pulled it to her. Leah studied the tea resting at the bottom of the cup. A knot twisted in her stomach. She asked what weighed heavily on her mind.
You said everyone in the palace died. Everyone, dear. Everyone did, my dear. Everyone but you and Jamie.
Vivian glided the knife through the still warm bread, slicing and buttering it for herself and Leah. Leah took a slice of the bread from her mother and bit into it. After a few moments, Vivian sighed and took a small key from her pocket. Leah watched with curiosity as her mother unlocked a hidden drawer in the kitchen and handed her an old package with the seal of Arya stamped in wax.
I was told to give this to you when it was time, and from what I've heard, now seems to be that time.
Leah set down her slice of bread and took the brown paper package. She held it tight, unsure of what to do.
How long have you had this? Since you arrived in my care. Now, go, take it to your room and open it.
Vivian wrapped Leah in a hug. She ran her hands over Leah's hair and cupped her face. Leah blinked back tears as she stared into her mother's eyes. Vivian smiled, released her from the hug, and motioned for her to go.
There's something for your eyes only, Leah. I hope it has the answers you seek.
Leah walked down a narrow hallway to the room she shared with Jamie as the kids come down it again, probably to yell
Maybe.
yeet.
Nope.
Oh, nope. Bathroom break. Awesome. I'll take it.
This is what it's like to have 3 kids.
Yeah. Leah walked down a narrow hallway to the room she shared with Jamie. Her hands shook, not from anger, but from nerves. Questions raced through her mind. Why wait so long to tell her? Why now? Was Jace the reason for the sudden urgency? The room had 2 beds, with children shouting down the hallway behind them.
I'll be right back.
The room had 2 beds, with a small table divided between them. Jamie's side had axes, knives, and blades of all sizes. She took great care of them, making sure each was clean and sharpened. Leah had a small collection of drawings she had done on assorted sizes of paper. Sketched images of a hooded figure with a cloth wrapped around their eyes, and a small child dressed in white with their arms wrapped around their knees were only some drawings that lined the walls. Leah traced the huddled child with her fingertips, picking up a bit of charcoal powder on them. They had to be memories of her past, desperately trying to break through. Leah smoothed the charcoal dust over her thumb and forefingers, then wiped them clean on the towel beside her workstation. She sat on the mismatched blankets and fluffy mattress. Holding the brown paper package, she closed her eyes. Her family lied to protect her. There had to be a reasonable explanation. Maybe the answers lay within the small package. Letting out the breath she was holding, she unwrapped the outer covering. Inside was a journal, bound in leather, tied together with blue string. The symbol of Arya was pressed into it with neat, purposeful writing carved into the binding. The Prophet Skillis. Leah opened the cover. A small envelope fell out and landed on the ground at her feet. Someone had written her name on it. She set the journal to the side and retrieved the envelope. After breaking the wax seal on the fold, she pulled out a small handwritten letter. A faded image of a man holding an infant with a woman standing over both was tucked between the folds. Leah unfolded it to read. My dearest Leah, by the time you read this, your mother and I will be dead. You will be safely away from the castle, but you will not remember us. Although we cannot be there to share your life with you, I want you to know the happiness we shared before.
You all need to keep it down.
Alyssa, is everything all right?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Just take all the candy, go bounce off the walls as much as you like.
Go. Enjoy. Eat all the gummy worms.
Bye.
I just bust the hole in it.
Go.
Well, I'm going to
Go.
take it from you if you don't take it now.
Go.
I could use some of that candy
Go.
too.
We'll be fine.
I'll give that.
Go.
Nope, I'm
Oh,
taking
God.
all of it.
Oh, God.
Did I hit a button? I think I hit a button. That's fine.
What?
What are you giving me? Give me the bag of Airheads.
Airheads?
Yep, it's blue.
I got it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Saved the Airheads from the children.
Thank you.
There.
And a Laffy Taffy. You were in the middle of Skillis.
I know.
Skillis
I got it. Thank you for the reminder. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I want you to know the happiness we shared before. The walks in the orchards, the mock sword fights between you and Jimmy, and how she would always let you win. You would pretend to use magic on her, and she'd fall to the ground in mock pain. You'd laugh so brightly we never wanted it to end. When you turned 6 was the first time we saw what you really were made of. And we knew that one day we would have to let you go, but we would make the most of the time we had together.
I don't know what she's doing. Take it. Alyssa, we are in the
Alyssa,
middle of something.
Come on,
sweetie.
honey, please. You're not being very respectful.
Oh, that's beautiful. All right. Come on. Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Daddy, did you put the wheel back on?
Later.
We will put the wheel back on later, sweetie. Thank you.
I will fix it for you later, I promise.
Uh,
Can your mother and I finish what we're doing?
We're almost done.
Yeah.
We've got 78 pages left to go.
Okay. 7 to 8.
Nah, I don't know. Might be right. I'm just guessing.
Okay.
Yes, that's exactly what she wants. Nope, they're coming back.
Get the blue gummy.
No,
They're right here.
they're over here. Yeah.
She forgot the blue gummies.
Go. Bye, girly girl. All right.
All right.
Magic, mock pain, brightly laughing, never wanted to end. Made of. And we knew that one day we would have to let you go, but we would make the most of the time we had together. We loved watching you grow. In fact, one time you put the kitchen staff to shame at 7 years old. The apple tart you made was the most amazing thing your mother and I had ever tasted. Not wanting to squander such a skill, we allowed you to work in the kitchens. The staff loved you dearly. While this letter may not seem like enough, and I understand it is not, I want to tell you, dear girl, we never wanted to leave you or let you go. We did what we thought was best for you. Jimmy knows she must reunite you with your memories, and it is only possible on the mainland in Undal. She is an extraordinarily strong-willed teenager. Try to not be too angry with her. She is only doing as I have asked. Don't worry, she is looking out for you. Just know, my dear Leah, we love you, and know you will one day remember us and who you are. Love, your mother and father. Leah clutched the letter against her chest as tears ran down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. Footsteps echoed toward the open door. Jimmy peeked into the room as Leah wiped a tear from her cheek. She coughed to get Leah's attention.
Vivian said I'd find you in here.
Jimmy said. Leah never questioned why Jimmy called Mom by her real name. Now it finally made sense. Vivian wasn't Jimmy's adoptive mom like she was for Leah. Jimmy really did just view them all as roommates, and the princess she was tasked with protecting. She was always on the job. Jimmy leaned against the door frame as Leah tucked the letter and drawing back inside the journal. Placing the hairpick she pocketed earlier back into her hair, she stood with her arms wrapped tightly around it.
Jamie, why did you keep all this from me? Why wait until now to tell me?
Jimmy sighed and smiled, in what Leah assumed was an attempt to reassure her.
It's time to go. I promise we'll speak about this later. For now, we need to set sail to Ndal before more trouble finds us.
Pressing her hand against Leah's shoulder, she did her best to give a reassuring squeeze.
I'd like to discuss this now.
Leah said flatly, pulling her shoulder away from Jimmy.
Trust me, it's better we get on the move. It's a long story, best told over an evening meal.
Jimmy nodded at her.
I'll even cook my specialty, burnt toast.
Leah snorted, trying to hold in a laugh. She momentarily forgot her anger. The feeling crept back up, like a ghost in the back of her mind, before she banished it back into the ether.
Jamie, what did my father ask of you? Keep her safe and happy. That's what matters most.
Jimmy mumbled.
We're going to head to June's shop and wait until nightfall to undock. Tokay and Giro are waiting for us at the wagon. Just give me a moment, okay?
Leah forced a smile at Jimmy.
Sure.
Jimmy exited the room. She glanced back.
I'll be right outside. Right behind you,
Leah said with a smile. She watched Jimmy turn the corner of the narrow hallway, and she finally exhaled. Tucking the journal into her pack, Leah looked around the room. Her gaze settled on a small ruby-inlaid switchblade. Picking it up, she tucked it into her dress pocket. She tried to convince herself everything would be okay, that her whole life wasn't just one big lie. She shook her head and tried to replace the misgivings with hope.
Ndal will have answers, like he wrote.
Leah closed the door to the cottage, lingering, holding the door handle. She closed her eyes and imagined herself much smaller, holding the same handle. A hand rested on her shoulder, startling her. Leah gasped and turned to see Tokay towering over her. His caring blue eyes always made her feel safe.
Tokay is coming. I'll be fine.
Leah forced a weak smile, still unsure of what to think. The door to the cottage opened. Vivian rushed to Leah and embraced her in a big hug. Leah could melt in her mother's embrace. She always smelled of fresh-baked cookies and bread.
You've gotten so big, my dear.
Vivian adjusted the hairpick in Leah's hair.
I'll miss you. I'll miss you too, Mom.
Leah fixed the hairpick. Tokay tugged at her dress sleeve, letting her know it was time to go.
What will you do, Mom? I'll be fine here.
Vivian clasped her hands together with Leah's.
You could come with us. No, I am an old woman. My days of adventures are behind me.
A tear rolled down Leah's face as Tokay helped to support her. She climbed the side of the wagon. Tokay wrapped his hands around her waist and lifted her into the back. Leah sat on the slats and looked at her mother.
I hope this doesn't take too long.
Leah glanced behind her as the cottage vanished over the horizon. She was nervous about the future and everything it could hold. Don't worry, Lee. Tokay ruffled Leah's hair, his palm easily fitting over her entire head. He put a protective arm around her shoulder and kicked back to enjoy the ride. A broad smile across his face. His confidence was infectious. Leah couldn't help but smile back, even as her whole life faded into the horizon. She knew he had always longed for adventure and was tired of waiting for something to happen. They were ready to face what was to come.
Eternity symbol.
Eternity symbol. Giro sat across from her, his sunglasses pressed against his nose and a frown on his face. He already expressed his desire to stay with his mother, but Jimmy insisted, and since June was his girlfriend, they needed his help. Leah reached over to the basket of herbs and spices she left in the wagon. He immediately licked his lips. He doesn't quite know how to do it very well. The collar of her dress dipped low enough for him to see the top of her breasts. Perhaps this trip might lend him a moment alone with her. She had to understand. She should be with him. June was a suitable distraction until he made his move. This time, Leah won't turn him down. He wouldn't give her a choice. Tokay cleared his throat. Giro glared. Tokay tapped Leah on the shoulder. She looked at him as he motioned for her to sit up. After fixing her posture, the cleavage vanished. Tokay made eye contact with Giro. Taking 2 fingers, he pointed them at his own eyes, then at Giro. Giro averted his gaze and flashed his twin the middle finger. Jimmy cracked the reins. The horses whinnied and marched forward back to Brighton. Dust kicked up around them as the wagon lurched forward.
Part 3. Now, I have a quick question, my dear.
What?
June, you or me?
June?
June.
Oh, she's sass. No, that's got to be me.
Okay.
God damn it, Greg!
All right. The voice of June.
I'll get all the sassy characters and guys. You can
Yes.
have everyone else.
Perfect. June and Anna. Got it.
Part 3. Brighton, Inner Harbor, day 26 of the 6th month. Cancer. The style of Undal was just off the pier of Brighton. Exotic colors and clothing from across the ocean filled its shelves. June Summers would bring things from over her ventures to Undal. Sorry. The large storefront window displayed a green silk dress with beads on the mannequin's wrists. A second mannequin wore a tan tunic with purple embroidery. With a large cloak covering her head, Leah ducked under Tokay's arm as he held the door open. She held tight to the basket from the market. She refused to leave it behind. Jimmy and the others followed as they entered the shop. Leah jumped when Jimmy placed her hand on her back and led her like a child into the shop's back room where June unpacked new wares.
Stop it, Jamie. I can walk on my own.
Leah twisted away from Jimmy's hand, heading towards some empty cartons to sit on. Setting the basket beside her, she crossed her arms in frustration. The back room of the style of Undal opened to the ocean. Cartons and crates were shuffled into corners under an outstretched ceiling. Wooden stairs gave way to a dock and connected the sea glass, June's sail houseboat. It rocked in the waves, occasionally grinding against the wooden dock. Whoa, I could have read that. Occasionally grinding against the wooden dock.
This is what I have to deal with. Eternity symbol.
Eternity symbol. June had pulled her auburn hair back in a loose ponytail. She wore a well-fitted, knee-length, white silk dress that flowed out around her hips. Ow! With a pair of daggers strapped around each thigh. I wonder why. I'll be right there. Just getting some... Holy shit! June dropped the box she was holding when she turned to see them. Giro caught the box before it hit the ground. He leaned over and tried to kiss her on the forehead. June dodged his attempt. She gave him a look that made him back away. Apprehensively, Giro spoke in hushed tones. June, we need your boat. The king's son spotted Jimmy. We hoped you would ferry us to Undal tonight. June focused on Leah and sighed. You know, I told you guys this would happen, but nope, you refused to believe me. I told you it was a bad idea to stay here on Aria, that someday someone would come looking here. You're lucky I just got back. June picked up another box as she berated them. Otherwise, she might be in the king's custody, and then what, That androgynous blue bitch would have gotten what she wanted. Spotting the basket of ingredients resting beside Leah, June put her hands on her hips. I hope you guys didn't pack the entire cottage. The sea glass can only carry so much. June pushed the box aside and closed the back door. Dropping her shoulders as she kept her hand placed on the door, she glanced behind her. And here I just got this business back in the black. Outside, the shop bell rang. June let out an exasperated sigh and pushed aside Giro. Opening the door a crack, she leaned against the doorway of her shop. I'll be right there. Take your time, just browsing. A man's voice came from the other side. June turned back to the fore. Get everything on the boat, stay below deck, and I will meet you this evening. I have a few things I need to take care of before we set sail, and please, try to be quiet. June opened the back door of the shop, returning to the till in the front. She put her hands on her hips as she watched the man browse. June could not help but notice the strands of black hair mixed in with the brown. He looked vaguely familiar. Can I help you? I'm just looking. The man thumbed some green silk. His voice seemed distant and sad. She cocked an eyebrow and took the shirt from him, holding it up for a better look. Green is more your color. June held the shirt to him, sizing him up. In fact, I don't think I've seen you in town before. Where are you from? She folded the shirt and returned it. Nowhere of consequence. He took the shirt from June and followed her to the counter. He reached into his jacket pocket and removed a few pieces of gold. The coins were old and didn't belong in Aria. June turned them over in her fingers. She paused. The old seal of Chol, the lion head backed by 2 swords, was engraved on them. 5 years ago was the last time she had seen it in circulation. Current Chol currency had the revised seal, the one that included the gun. June knew who he reminded her of. She had heard tales in her travels of the Crown Prince of Chol disappearing. She never expected to see him in her little island shop. She reached under the counter and took a dagger from her hip. Jace Rayon, I presume? Jace narrowed his eyes and reached for his weapon at his hip. Before he could remove his sword, June sliced at his hand with the dagger. Jace shook his hand at the sudden strike. He gritted his teeth, yanking the sword free from its hilt. June pressed her palm on the top of the counter and jumped over, knocking the sword from his grip with her boot. The sword clattered to the ground. She slashed the edge of his upper arm. The sleeve of the jacket tore and fell open. Blood seeped out of the cut. June exposed the insignia of the Ashen Guard tattooed on his upper arm. She gave him a twisted smile. That confirms it. You are him. I am? Jace held her gaze. Barely flinching, he reached over to touch the cut on his arm, looking at the blood on his fingers. He narrowed his eyes. It's not what you think. Really depends on what I think, doesn't it? And I think... June held daggers at the ready. You're not as good as the rumors say. Rumors are generally over-exaggerated. Jace slowly knelt for the discarded sword. June placed the dagger below his chin. Jace straightened and smirked. Keep your hands where I can see them. June sneered as he tucked his hands into his pockets. Please, let me explain. Jace took a step toward her. I suggest staying right there. June backed up to the storeroom, opened the door, and closed it behind her. He's here. We have to move now.
Eternity symbol.
Eternity symbol. Jace ran his uninjured hand through his hair. That was unexpected and unfortunate. He let out a heavy sigh and retrieved his sword from the floor. Ah! Jace gripped his right arm as the slice burned. Shrugging off and discarding the jacket, he inspected the wound, touching it lightly with his fingers. Warm, sticky blood covered his hand as he pulled it away. Shit. Wiping it clean on the green silk shirt he had picked out, jerk.
I know, right? How dare
He turned his attention to the back door. The sounds of movement clamored behind it. They were trying to leave. He couldn't let that happen. Jace took up the sword with his wounded arm and rested the blade against the wood of the door. Bringing it up, he stepped to the side, slamming it hard against the doorknob. The clang from the metal and metal strained his ears. He brought it down.
Oh, there's a typo.
Yep.
Oh well.
Strike after strike.
Fix that later.
Until the door finally gave out. Swinging in toward the back room, he narrowed his eyes. The Guardian ran at him, her axe in her hands. Leah stood behind her. A large, muscular man held onto her arm, urging her to follow him. Deflecting the Guardian's blow, Jace twisted underneath, pushing his way deeper into the back room. You know, I just wonder at this scene, like, what was he thinking trying to do this? Like, who is he trying to attack?
Nobody.
No one and everyone.
Yeah, he's just trying to
I just
get
wanted,
them to listen.
I just wanted to stab you by not stabbing you. It's okay.
Hey, look, she's back.
Hi, Alyssa.
Bye, Alyssa. What are you doing? Take it with you.
Just take the whole bag.
Take it.
It's fine. You've got all the
Take
rest.
It. Take it. Bye.
Love you, Bun Bun. Shut the door. He hooked his sword under the blade of the axe.
Thank you.
The Guardian grunted as the two blades connected. She pressed her foot against a crate and pushed back against him. Please, stop this. Listen to me. Jace loosened his grip on the hilt of his sword. He had to get them to listen.
Never. I know who you are. You won't get your hands on the princess.
The Guardian yanked her axe down, ripping the sword from his hands.
Jimmy, stop.
Leah ripped from the blonde man's grasp. She held her hands out. Jace stepped back. The air around him grew thick. The scars on his back burned. Jace's eyes grew wide as the world around him shuddered to a stop. The Guardian remained in place, her axe inches from his throat. Jace tried to move, but his body refused to listen. He was frozen in time. The blonde man still reached out for Leah, his mouth agape with something he had shouted. Leah held her hands to her chest. She was breathing rapidly, but she could move freely. Her gaze darted from person to person until she made eye contact with Jace. If he could have, Jace would have gasped in shock. Leah's eyes were pure white. Holy shit, is she doing this? Leah slid closer to him. She looked at the sword at her feet, then at him. Pressing her hands against his chest, She pushed him out of the way of Jimmy's frozen axe. Jace, unable to resist her, I just can't resist, stared as she reached for a roll of rope. Whoa.
Well, you know.
Hey, now.
Well, no.
Bringing his wrists out in front.
Well.
Bringing his wrists out in front of him, she loosely tied them together. Leah pressed her hand to her head, blinking slowly. She stumbled back, her foot nearly slipping off the dock. She's going to fall! Jace's mind screamed. Leah glanced at him as the color returned to her eyes. The blue of the ocean blended with them as they rolled back into her head. Jace lunged forward as time restarted. Sliding his left hand free of the poorly tied knot, he wrapped his fingers around her arm before she could fall into the water below. He pulled her toward him, letting her unconscious form rest on the wooden slats below.
What the hell just...
Jimmy landed, and the axe finished its wide swing.
Where the fuck?
Language?
I'm sorry, I forgot it was in there.
Jace dropped to his knees beside Leah and put his hand on her shoulder. He gave her a gentle shake. Come on, wake up! The rope around his wrist burned as Jimmy yanked on it.
Get your hands off her.
Jimmy stood over Jace. Jimmy, what happened? The tall blonde man came rushing forward. Lee! The man knelt beside Leah, putting his hands under her head and waist. He gathered her into his arms. The auburn-haired shopkeeper and a second blonde man came down the ramp of the boat.
I don't know, Tokay, but I might have an idea.
Jimmy pulled Jace to his feet and brought him closer so she could land one good hit across his face. Blood, 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 and death. Jace's head snapped to the side. He bit his lip to preempt a pained shout. She yanked on his left arm, tying his wrists together behind his back. She glowered.
Your father will never get his hands on eternity.
Jace glared, and his face throbbed. He wanted to scream, "My dad's an asshole!" Jimmy's attempt at tying his hands together was better than the princess's. He worked the ropes with his fingers. Jimmy pointed at his sword.
Hide that thing, Jero. We don't want any evidence left behind.
Got it. Jero, the thinner blonde man in sunglasses, handed it to the auburn-haired shopkeeper. She wrapped it in some loose fabric and carried it to the boat. I'm telling you, you need to listen to me. Jace took a step closer to Jimmy.
You tried to kill the princess. Why should we listen to you?
Jimmy frowned, rolling the rope tighter in her hands. The rope tugged against his wrist. He stared into Jimmy's eyes and replied, If I wanted her dead, I would have let her fall.
I don't believe you,
Jimmy said flatly. My father sent me here on a wild rumor. Jace twisted his wrists, pressing his fingers closer to his palm, tucking them under the rope. Right now, he thinks she is dead, and I'm sure you want it to remain that way.
You attacked us.
Jimmy protested. Her focus was still on his eyes. Jace twisted the knot loose with his fingers, waiting for the right moment. No, I defended myself. If you know who I am, then you know my reputation. The rope slid free of his wrists. Bringing them in front of him, he rubbed them lightly. He cocked a grin. I let you win.
You son of a bitch.
Jimmy drew her axe, dropping the rope. She went to lunge at him, but Tokay put his hand on her shoulder. Tokay shook his head. Leah was still resting against his chest. Jimmy, we have to consider what he's saying. Think of it this way. If we take him with us, you can interrogate him to your heart's desire.
Fine. This time you won't get out of my knot.
Jimmy ripped the rope out of Jace's hand. He held his wrists back out to her. He sighed as she wrapped the rope around his wrists, tightening it better this time. Jace smirked. Well, this could be interesting. I'm telling you, there might be a thing with these ropes.
I guess.
He smirked as he's being tied up. I'm just reading the words on the page, okay? He looked past Jimmy as she pulled hard on his binds, causing him to stumble toward the boat. The ocean stretched for miles behind a large boat docked against crates. Jace's stomach reflexively churned. The plan was to go by sea. Fantastic. I hate boats. Looking past Jimmy, Jace could still see Leah, her long brown hair resting against the shoulder of the tall blonde man carrying her. He could not shake the image of her white eyes staring into his.
Eternity symbol.
Eternity symbol.
We should kill him.
Jimmy yanked Jace forward as Jero spirited the prince's sword into hiding. No, Jimmy, that would make us no better than Soren. June rushed ahead of her and unlocked a door at the back of the boat. She waved her forward. We can keep him in here. It locks from the outside.
Perfect.
Jimmy pushed the prince through the door. Staring into his eyes, she sneered.
The first chance I get, I'm going to kill you.
Boxes of fabric and loose garments were scattered around the storeroom. Jimmy gave him a good shove with her boot, and he stumbled but stayed on his feet. She closed the door behind her. No, you won't, Jimmy. June locked the door. He doesn't mean any harm. If he did, he would have let Lee fall off into the ocean and drown.
You don't know that.
Jimmy huffed. June shot her a look that caused her heart to skip a beat.
Fine.
Jimmy wiped her hands off on her hips.
There's nothing you can use to escape?
June shook her head and started down the hallway. Unless he can use an old shirt to make a lockpick, there's nothing.
Eternity symbol.
Eternity symbol. Giraud scoffed as Jimmy exited the lower levels of the boat and shoved him aside. He found June below, rummaging through her supplies. Leaning against the wall, he pressed his sunglasses up his nose. We should burn it. What? June turned to him with a scowl. All that blood and messed up shit, Soren's bound to notice. He put his elbow on the wall and tucked his hand behind his head. Hey.
No.
No. No. You're right, unfortunately. June reached into a side hatch and pulled out an unlit torch. She let out an exasperated sigh. Giraud followed her out from below decks and back onto the top deck. Keeping his face covered, he smirked as June lit the torch on fire. Jimmy stepped forward.
June, what are you doing?
What's that for? Tokay pushed the door to the captain's cabin open. He returned from laying Leah down in the feather bed June set out for herself during her long trips to Undal. Nosy neighbors, June said. Get the boat ready to set sail. We will need to move as soon as the fire starts. She marched down the launch to the dock and into her shop. Jimmy and Tokay watched in silent horror as the fire crackled in the shop's window. Giraud only smiled. What a dick. Fire made its way up the rafters. June slid the window open, allowing the fire to eat more oxygen. It spread quickly over the open window to the roof. The back door slammed open. June left it as the flames danced their way into the back room. Crates of clothing and wood lit. What is she doing? Tokay asked as black smoke billowed out of the open back door of the clothing shop. The smoke rolled out to the docks as June made her way back, a piece of cloth covering her mouth and nose. Giraud extended his hand to June. She batted it away. She jumped back onto the boat, then lifted the launch, turning it with two hands to bring the ladder back up. Tokay motioned to let him take over. June ran to the boat's wheel and opened the sail wide. Wind caught the canvas and caused the boat to lurch backward into the open sea. She threw the wheel wide, turning them toward Undal. Giraud leaned in close to her. You did the right thing. He tucked his hands into his pockets and stepped away as the boat leveled out. Jimmy ran to her, holding onto the railings, trying not to topple over the side.
Why did you do that?
She shouted over the sail flapping in the wind. The waves crashed against the houseboat as Brighton faded over the horizon. June replied, We just kidnapped the Crown Prince of Chal, Jimmy. There's no going back. The end. That's it. We're done.
With some interruption, we tried.
The rivalry begins.
Indeed. All right. Well. Book.
I'd post the link,
Look,
but
cute Jace.
probably everybody here has seen it.
I think everybody, but you can always get it from my Twitter at the 13th Z and at Lathina.
Yeah, that's me.
That one.
Lathina as kids.
There's 3 of them.
Oh, little Jace.
Yes. He's got the black streak and everything. I gotta fix it because it messed up. See?
Trying to think.
And a necklace.
What was the song?
It's the let's get down to business.
That's right. Sorry. I promised a certain person a song. Let's get down to business to defeat the Chal. 'Cause my dad's an asshole. Crap, I don't remember what I sang before.
No!
Oh no! I gotta think of words now.
And he has no balls.
Oh, and he has no balls. He's the biggest dick I've ever met, and he hasn't got a clue. Father, I'll put a bullet in you. Kill your dad.
See, and then you also have to try to do surface pressure. Can you do that one again? Don't you have that
Jesus.
on your phone?
Yes, I think I have the words to that one. I'll do that one. Sure. Special requests. We're taking requests tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So feel free to fire off some songs, and I will see if I can't make something up about the 13th Zodiac. With the author here, the amazing author, L. Krauch. I have all of her express permission to record this, so there's no copyright issues. Let me see if I can pull this one up.
This one is my favorite.
You would. Crap. They're all untitled documents, so
Well,
I need to
why
find
didn't
it.
you title anything?
Because I don't know how.
Oh, he got it.
I got it. I found it. Okay. I'm the strong twin. I'm not nervous. I'm as tough as the Capricorn on my neck is. I guard my sister, love my girlfriend. I'm the guy wandering round with these kids. I don't ask how hard the work is. Got a rough but lovable surface. Chaw soldiers at 'em, I find 'em and flatten 'em. I take what I'm handed, I break what's demanding. But under the surface, I ain't gonna lie, Jero, he kinda makes me nervous. Under the surface, him saying shit to June kinda makes me wanna throw fists. Under the surface, I'm pretty sure we'd be screwed if we trusted Jeru.
Jero.
I know.
I know.
A lie or a crack when he's looking at her back. I just want to give him a smack. It's just pressure like a tick, tick, tick that just won't let go. Whoa. Pressure like a drip, drip, drip till I'm ready to blow. Whoa. Oh. That's all I have.
That's
for that
all we
one.
have. Surface pressure.
I actually wrote
From
that
TK.
one down. So usually they just are top of the head kind of thing.
He did one for Jace, but we can't remember what it was. And yeah, it's gone.
It's gone. Yep. I don't remember that one. That one was more of a Dream Taker one, though. I
No,
think.
like that first book. It's still first book.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Oh, the one for Jace.
The one for Jace was all Dream
Yeah, that was
Taker.
Dream Taker.
That was
definitely Dream Taker.
spoilery.
Yeah.
No, I think we're trying to avoid those, but
For the most part.
carry around.
Yes.
She says this all the
I need to just have a
time.
24-hour camera on him because he is hilarious. He did a pseudo interview with Greg and Meg and Leah, and it was just hilarious. And he didn't record it, and he should have. I'm sorry, Jamie, if you are watching.
We've got 3, so there's a good chance that she's one of them.
She might be.
We've got a 33% chance that she's
And if
one
she's
of them.
not, I'm sure she'll watch it later.
Yeah, that's fine. The VOD will be up afterwards, so feel free to swing on by and give it a view. Which one?
What?
Who's an asshat?
I'm assuming it's Jero.
Yeah, probably. He is. He sucks. Yes, that is actually, that is actually why.
Yeah, there's no Jero in...
But, okay, so...
Yay.
That is a matter of opinion, because to me, Dream Taker was bad.
loathes the villain
If I could
for reasons.
if I could stab that person, I would absolutely no hesitation.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up, not stopping death.
Oh, okay, hold on. Okay, well. I know that. I am so sorry. I've heard a lot of people with the ending of Dream Taker.
Yeah, because he should have died.
Well,
He should have died.
he will, and
All of them should have died.
everybody.
Everybody.
Just all of them.
That's right.
Including
hey,
Tokay,
It's
right?
all about death, right? Yep. Kill him too.
All of them. And Crow.
Maybe. I'll be honest. I don't know. I haven't read anything in Shattered Fate, so I have
no idea how this is gonna end.
Zero idea. I do have one question though.
Okay.
And I need to look it up because there might be a continuity issue with Leo. Just so you know.
Oh, well, we'll look it up.
Remember to remind me that I have a continuity question about Leo.
Okay. Sneaky read and stop her.
Everyone's gonna die. That's it. I've already made the call at this point.
There are certain characters that I am not allowed to kill.
The tree was one.
The tree. Tokay. And Crow.
Everyone but Crow and Moth. In their image.
That'd be a really weird world.
Something VSS. I dipped my something in sugar. Oh yeah.
I remember.
Wonder
that
where the
VSS.
inspiration for that one came. It did not come from me. No. She is about as red as an apple right now that Jace will never eat. So
no apples. Don't lie. What do you mean?
oh no, that definitely no lie there.
No.
I have never performed any kind of sugar.
No, I think
sugar
she's talking
dips.
about whether Crow or dies, because Crow doesn't die, never dies.
I don't know. Maybe.
No, he doesn't. But I can't say that he doesn't come out
I don't think so.
unscathed. We love Crow.
She
He
loves
kind
Crow.
of likes Crow.
Crow's okay. He's not my favorite. If I had like an FMK with Tokay, Jace, and Jiro, I would probably F and M Tokay. Right? I mean,
just kill Jiro.
just kill Jiro. No, he wasn't one of them.
Yes, it was. You said.
I said
you
Jace.
said Tokay, Jason, Jiro. You didn't say Crow. You said Jiro.
I swear to God, I said Crow. I meant Crow. Jiro can go jump off a cliff as far as I'm concerned. I would be happy as a clam if he did. I feel like we should probably tag this whole thing. I did say Jiro. I'm so sorry. Nope. My point still stands, though. I would stab him twice.
Yes. Because he knows the story of where Jiro came from.
Yeah. Bye.
And if you are curious, you can always ask.
We are going to have to tag this VOD with, like, spoilers.
Yeah, there are some, but not much.
Not much. Read the book. Read the book. It's a fantastic book. There is a reason that it is my favorite
And it's not
literary
just 'cause I wrote it,
piece
and I'm married to him.
in existence. It is not just because I am married to the author. There are many other reasons besides that. Not to mention the incredibly awesome visual style that you have and the way that you write. Let's just say I read a little bit more into the story than I should have. And yeah, that's kind of why Dream Taker was really, really like low blow for me. Yeah.
Well, we should probably... Whoa, there's a big thing. Okay.
Okay, I love you. I need you to take a nap because I'm old. You're not that old.
You're not that old, Valerie.
But that's okay.
We're old. We need to go to bed, too. We got to get kids to bed. Oh, God.
It's only 8:49.
Yeah, but usually we're getting to bed, I know. Good night, Jen.
Good night, Jen. Good night, guys. You know what? We will call it here. Check it out. The VOD will be up. So, you know, if you guys want to watch it later or whatever. 6
Night-night.
a.m.? Ooh. I don't know. Is it a.m., p.m.? I guess 6 would... I don't know.
Ah, she's going to bed.
Bye. The other 2 of you that are here, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks
One of
for
them I think is me.
PM.
Over
Hey,
here.
I don't know. I don't read the, times. Jesus. This one's the time lady.
Time.
You said you were old. It's only 6 p.m. Like, geez, I usually go to bed, I don't know, at like 10:30 or so. I'm up at 4 every day. Every day.
5.
5.
For reasons.
For reasons. related to testicular cancer. So tell your SOs to
Check
check
your
them.
nuts.
Check your nuts, please. And good night, Jen.
And anybody else who's watching.
And anyone else who's watching. We will call it here. I hope you all enjoyed the stream, and the VOD will be up, so you guys can check it out later or encourage other people to check it out, and maybe we'll do something like this again in the future since I have the awesome background and stuff going on now as provided by this one. And I'm going to put up this Be Right Back really quickly because
it's pretty.
Awesome image right there. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good night. We will see you all. I'm sure she'll talk to you guys on Twitter. I don't know. I'm usually there. I am, after all, a big fan.